Hello everyone and welcome back to CF Make Believe, where we're playing World and Economica. Last time we had Hagana taking Yoshiharu back to the Big Bowl Cafe to talk about the program, and she felt more comfortable with his presence there, as she's not very comfortable being with Serrault. And considering what was going on there, it has some merit. Then the two left to have lunch together on top of the tunnel where he always goes. So they had some nice moments together, but now we have the continuation as she works on the theory while he works on the virtual contest meanwhile. So let's see what ensues today. The next day, Hagana and I were lined up at the table. Her terminal was set next to mine, and the program Serrault made was open. From what I'd heard, it apparently took all the factors that would move a stock, converted them into variables, and would then pick out the ones that seemed to be able to predict what would happen to the stock. Apparently, the predicted price of stocks moved according to a normal distribution, so just that exception, it was imitating what I was doing. The difference between me and the program was that it instantly picked several stocks I'd perhaps be interested in out of 1,000, calculate out the future prices, and show them to me. Stock prices were always going up and down, and that movement range was called the volatility. On days when the market made big moves, the price would move a lot, but on most days, it moved around the same amount. The program would determine the volatility for the data from the index and would continuously display the predicted price. I'd look at the stocks that Hagana's program would pick out, open up the ones that looked useful. There were a bunch of usable ones, so I thought it was imitating my selection process pretty well. Well, let's give her a try. Yeah, Hagana seemed to be a bit nervous. Makes sense. The prices on the imaginary stock market all started moving at once. The stock that Hagana's program picked up, apparently locked in, showed the price spreads for the day. The movement of the index, essentially the market sentiment, was supposed to be within that range 7 out of 10 times. I was looking at other stocks too, but this one was the main one. Today, the market was a bit sluggish and wasn't really moving. Apparently, reacting to this, the program tightened the price spreads. Seemed like it's recalculate things every few minutes. How is it? Hagana asked. I hunched my shoulders and stared at the price. It was continuing to inch its way down. The buyers just weren't coming in. My gut feeling was that it wasn't time to move. This price here was the bottom, was it? Yes. After adjustments, this price is one standard deviation away. I don't really understand, but apparently that's what it was. However, the sentiment was something you get by looking at the movement of many stocks and shoving any info that might seem relevant in your head, all the while chasing numbers until your eyes spun and finally getting at the end. Was this something math could encompass? I kept getting more and more suspicious. The reason was because before the market even opened, it showed the upper and lower bounds as if it knew what was going to happen today already. And the stocks we were looking at, the bottom was supposed to be 732 moles, and it was at 738. It opened at 745 moles, so it was down exactly 1%. Yeah, it went down by 7. Dropping 1% was like a sneeze. Your nose could just be itchy and had nothing to do with a cold. But there was little information out there, so you couldn't tell. I opened screen for other stocks and found stocks where some people couldn't wait longer, or stocks that were moving strongly and tagged along. You should buy a stock when it starts rising, and sell it at a point where it was probably too early. If you made a profit, then don't follow what the stock does afterwards. If you lay your hands on it again, if it seems to want to go higher, you'll most likely come out with a loss. Even the that's kind of interesting. Like, okay, once you're done, you're done. Don't look at it again. Don't get, what's the word? The word escapes me, but like, don't get charmed into it. Don't get persuaded into it again. Not the right words I was looking for, but close enough, I guess. Even the famous scientist Isaac Newton made a textbook mistake and was ruined. That was towards the end of the 1800s. I knew that Hagana was getting jealous next to me, but I couldn't waste an entire morning on that one stock. For an hour or an hour and a half, I was adding up gains of 0.7% or 0.5%. It wasn't a great performance, but since the market was weak, it was on the good side. Along the way, I had two 0.2% losses. Oh well. What was that ding? Suddenly, a tone sounded. Is it the doorbell? How? Hagana called my name. When I looked, her finger was pointed at the terminal. Looking at it, I saw numbers in Hagana's program blinking. When I looked at the stock on mine, it had dropped to 734 moles, near the bottom limit. It's going down. I know. Is the ping actually telling you when it's going down? Like when it's dropping? I was looking at the screen, and the order board didn't have any buy or sell prices that were shouting. Here. I'm supposed to buy here? To be honest, I winced. There was nothing to go on but Hagana's program. The volatility is low, but the sigma's gone down to the bottom. As usual, I had no idea what she was talking about. But she was serious. And you guys did promise that like you would split 5 million, I think, of the initial value that you had, so that each of you could try out your methods. Trusting her, I bought. Since the lowest point was supposed to be 732, as usual, I put in the order for one step before, at 733 moles. The stock hung a bit at 735 moles, then there was a largish sell order, and it fell to 734, then 733 quickly. My order executed and the stock stopped there for a moment. However, in this situation, everyone would want to hold back, and the margin sellers would be coming to sell. Naturally, the sell orders came in all at once. Soaking up my entire 733 mole order, it ate through half of the 732 mole orders. Scared, I made cut losses. Right now, it wouldn't hurt that much. Hagana apparently realized that and grabbed my hand to stop me. Yeah, because you're kind of going against what she asked you to do. No. What are you doing? It should get bought here. It's supposed to get bought here. She spoke while holding my hand. Why? Based on what? It was human nature to hope that the program you made would predict correctly. But reality is merciless, and the market was known for its wild and free movements, to the point where they said it didn't care about owners. If prey was all that was needed to win, then people like Lisa would be rich. Interesting that, like, he didn't just say, like, anyone, but Lisa in specific, the religious one. Makes sense. The 732 moles buyers were cleared, and it was into 731 mole territory. Already, we were down 0.4%. I was on the edge of cutting losses. The sentiment was horrible. There was no reason to buy. Under 731 was that round number wall of 730 moles. Was it going by that? From the look of things, even if it stopped falling there wasn't a reason it'd go up. But Hagana continued looking at the screen. Up. It's supposed to go up. A buy order came, and the 731 moles buy orders might win. Huh? However, the stock didn't move up or down. Buy orders would come in intermittently and it stopped there. Sell, buy, sell, buy. They struggled, and the atmosphere changed. Seriously? Trading stopped completely. Go up. Exactly when Hagana whispered. I like that little. What? A bunch of buys up to 733 mules came in. The sellers seemed to have a hiccup and trading stopped. Buys still kept coming in, now up to 734 mules. Now you guys are in the profit. Sells came, however, it was like a water gun, and it turned to steam next. 735, 736, 735, 736, 737, 738, 739. The trading was unstable, but I knew that a bunch of orders were waiting at 740. Gains were at about 1%. If we wanted to take our profits, this was the place. I threw off Hagana's hand and put in an order. This time, Hagana didn't stop me. At the end, we executed at 739 and made 0.9% profit. See? And you were gonna stop at a 0.4 loss. You did a 1.3% increase, thanks to Hagana. The stock hit 740 for a moment, and then it was pushed back by strong sale orders to 738 moves and stayed there, struggling. So you did a good moment to sell. Well, look at the movement, I couldn't help but feel stunned, like I had just seen an optical illusion. Did we profit? Hagana asked. I suppose so. You suppose? When she asked again, I corrected myself. 0.9. Hagana didn't seem to know whether that was a big or small, so she frowned a bit, but didn't seem upset. At least, she nodded in satisfaction at having profited. But I just didn't understand. What did it base its judgment on? How did it know it would increase? When I looked at Hagana, she looked back at me. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Then Hagana spoke. What? The same as chart analysis. While I was calculating different graphs, I came to realize that there were a bunch of people trading the same way. While putting these big words together, Hagana looked directly into my eyes. In those black eyes, there was confidence. The range of price movements are extremely limited. They're much more systematic than what comes out of a random number generator. It's proof that the road's been paved by someone. Paved? Hagana frowned. However, after closing her eyes, she explained. The concepts used in statistics are the same for everyone. So if everyone wants to calculate things, then everyone would come to similar prices. It's just the difference in how you weight the prices. When that happens, everyone would think that this price would be the bottom around here. Other people calculating would know too. That's why we buy at 732, and when spot, everyone would know that their calculations were correct, and would confidently buy, so it'd go up. Then, the people who don't have as much confidence, they'd buy too. Get it? She asked if I got it, but my head was about to explode. But I think I got the general idea at least. So, you're saying that everyone's predicting the same thing? Yes. Huh. Being told that clearly, I wanted to say that was crazy. But the price moved exactly as she had predicted, so there was some basis to it. You couldn't ignore how it dropped below 732 moles for an instant. More important was how the program automatically calculated that. But there's things I can't do. Like? Hagana looked at me, then the screen. She looked down, maybe out of frustration. I don't know when to sell. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Even if I knew the price range, I don't know when it would hold or go up. And if it goes up, where it would go. Hagana looked up at me. You would know that, right? There was a pause. From the sentiment. Don't make fun of the sentiment. She's not making fun. In fact, she's praising it. I'm not. It's true. Hagana snapped her eyes back to the screen. But in her profile, I saw just the tiniest hint of friendliness. Yeah, you guys are becoming friends. And so basically they're gonna use her program to predict when to buy, and he would be the one deciding when to sell. Is that the idea we're going off for now? Oh well, you won your first battle, but what about the next? The list is here. Fiddling with her terminal, the list of stocks came up again. Look at the volume, the closing, and the price movements. Up until now, I picked out 3. Looking at Hagana by my side, I saw her looking at those 3 names without expression. And then she looked at me. Go profit. That was all from the princess. But an extremely smart princess. Your wish is my command, milady. And like a knight, I rode off to the battlefield of stock market. That is a funny imagery. On the screen, the numbers stopped moving. It was at 5 p.m. in the evening. It was at 5 in the evening. Yeah, let's go with that. In the end, we won so much, it was silly. 19 wins to 2 losses. Those 2 were from when I traded something other than what Hagana's program said. Which means that Hagana's program got a 19 to 19 success rate. 100%. Essentially, a perfect record. Oh wow, that fit perfectly to what I was saying. We were up 17%. Hagana was trading with me and had been too afraid to plow everything in. So we were up 1.2 million moles. If we had thrown all the margins available for trading, we would have earned 4 million moles in total. Okay, so it seems like it's coming together. This thing is amazing. Look at the numbers glowing in the program on her terminal. I spoke. With trading closed, I was uploading today's trading data from the trading contest site. It was downloading in real time and recalculating. It almost looked like a living thing feeding. The numbers would go up and down and keep changing one after another. It took a bunch of indicators and correlated them and calculated. And whenever one price changed, all the other prices would change. And when all the prices changed, there was no end. This was what computers could do. No human could do this. Yup. Humans can program, but they can't do what the program can do. It's just such a magical thing. We succeeded? Hagana asked. After that start, I learned how to use the program, and once again pulled up 10 stocks and checked the price constantly. When the tone sounded, I traded fiercely. Yep. So the little pink sound is like, hey, it's at the lowest. You should buy stuff now. Time to trade. That's an interesting little thing, which can be very helpful. Maybe she got sick along the way and stopped looking at the screen part way, but she didn't leave her seat. She apparently couldn't just leave the program she had devoted herself to creating. And then, that question from her. She looked so worried, I was tempted to tease her and say we didn't profit. Her eyes were normally sharp and her actions severe, so with a face like that, it was really tempting. We didn't profit, we had a major profit. But I somehow managed to resist the urge when I spoke. Huge success. It was then. Hagana's expression just melted. Wow, that's an expression I did not expect from the little smart princess we had got here. Thank goodness. And then that relieved smile. think how she was usually, this had a lot of power. The contrast was too great. It just blew past my limit. And while I was all blown away, I saw her wipe some tears from the corner of her eyes. Stupid, don't cry. I blurred that out in confusion, and her softened face instantly hardened. I'm not crying. What an obvious lie. I'm not crying, just sweat is coming out of my eyes, you know? And just after saying that, she sniffed. When she wouldn't admit it if I pointed it out, she wouldn't admit if I pointed it out anyway. Plus, that didn't matter. Hagana was so relieved that it didn't matter. Next to me, Hagana was sniffing and wiping the corners of her eyes. I wish she'd think about how I felt having to pretend I didn't see that. But it was a bit cute how she tried to keep up appearances. Apparently, what Lisa said was true, about how she didn't have a personality nearly as twisted as her mean-looking eyes would indicate. Citing to myself, I looked at the screen to pass the time. What can be improved? Out of nowhere, Hagana asked, What? Places to improve. Yeah, always looking for improvement. We can get better than this. 17%? That's just a start. Come on. She probably wasn't asking about how to lie about not crying. Yeah, she's not talking about the crying thing. She's talking about the program. Looking at her and then at the screen, I answered. A few of the price ranges were a bit loose, and there were a lot of stocks to pick that were misses. I can pick them out when I trade, but I guess that's about it. Hagana's nose sounded a bit stuffed still, but her face had gone back to normal. She looked at her program and nodded. But, well, it's amazing. Sitting up and then leaning back in the chair, I let out an admiring sigh. Without me noticing, someone had been putting up such a fight. Hagana was looking at me quietly. Then, looking at the terminal one more time, she spoke. I'm relieved. I totally agree with those heartfelt words. Afterwards, Hagana was nodding off by dinner time. When she dropped the spring roll, Lisa took Hagana's chopsticks away gently. She's very tired. Hagana resisted childishly for an instant, but quickly her eyelids dropped and she fell asleep. Really now? Even though she said that, she seemed happy in a way. For now, she got Hagana to stand up somehow, then picked her up with both arms. Since Hagana was slender, Lisa was able to hold Hagana completely in her arms. Lisa wobbled a bit, but managed to carry Hagana into her room. It took quite a while, so she probably changed Hagana's clothes too. Recently, she's been staying up all late into the night. Oh? You didn't notice? Nope. When I fall asleep, I don't wake up. How nice. I wake up quite easily. You probably don't exercise enough. When I said that, Lisa fell silent and glanced down, where she looked. To preserve Lisa's good name, I pretended not to see. I mean, when you're telling a girl she hasn't exercised enough, yeah, I can imagine that's her reaction. I wonder if it is exercise. No, wait. We're not talking about that. What? So, in the end, how was it? How was what? What are we talking about? I munched on the spring roll Hagana had dropped. Hagana's program thing. It was a huge success. Maybe we can aim for the top prize. I said I was scooping up rice. Hagana didn't really eat much, but she seemed to like Chinese food, and always wanted to make sure everyone got the same portions. With her down for the count, I guess the rest was mine. When I reached out for some steamed dumplings, Lisa hit me. There won't be any for her tomorrow morning. Don't make that face. So, a huge success, huh? Really? Darn it. Yeah, it's true. Oh, and... and so the rush of relief. Lisa spoke while looking towards Hagana's room. Then she turned to me and put her own dumpling on my plate. I didn't mean for you to give me yours. Always the stubborn one. Lisa sighed and hunched her shoulders. But, I see. That's good. Lisa had a kind of relief, quiet smile on her face. She stirred the small bowl of soup by her hands with a small piece of lotus root. I had a feeling that it wasn't because the program was working and was making money. With my chopsticks still in my mouth, I stared at Lisa a bit, but then she would suddenly raise her head. Holding chopsticks in your mouth isn't polite. Oh, shut up. Swearing, I moved some stir-fry to my plate. While I was stirring up that well-seasoned dish, I knew Lisa was looking at me and smiling. But I wanted to pretend like I didn't see, and Lisa kept looking at me until I put my plate down on the table. Setting my plate down, I tried my very best to glare at Lisa. What? However, all Lisa did was tilt her head slightly. Grown woman. It was embarrassing and frustrating, but even so, I didn't hate it. That really pissed me off. I just thought that, wow, that these sort of things do happen too. What sort of things? Good coincidences. It was just that I had a feeling I understood what she was saying. Well, no. You've done all that you could after all. Being told that straight to my face, it felt like I was being made fun of. Drinking the soup, I hid my mouth. Not particularly. Lisa laughed and took a slow, deep breath. If you weren't around, what would happen to us, I wonder? Not Hagana alone, or Lisa alone, but the two of them together. Yeah, you wouldn't have stopped Mr. Toyama and paid that quick debt for earlier, nor would you be able to help out here with those 50 million that she needs. And Hagana would be down in the dumps in her room like she was earlier. Like, you really brighten up the life of these two and save them. And in a way, they also helped you. If I weren't around, what would have happened to them in the church? I tried imagining what that would be like, and could only come up with a wretched image. I'm probably imagining about the same. Just two girls together wouldn't feel very restrictive, but at times things get a bit too heavy, you know? You're young enough to be a girl. When I muttered that, Lisa glared at me with a smile. Don't talk about a woman's age. Come on. Jeez. You don't like it, so I don't say, but really, I feel so thankful. I almost don't even know what to say. There was that selling the books thing, but there was just nothing I could do about Hagana. Yeah, she would be able to sell her books to solve the 50 million debt thing, but the Toyama thing and the Hagana situation, yeah, there was not much that could have been done. I just couldn't find a serious way to answer Lisa's words. And you're saying it right now. Words are difficult things, aren't they? Lisa said cheerfully. Even I could tell that she did it to brighten the mood for my sake. Did it get darker? Lisa had really been in a dangerous situation. If she were the type of adult I hated, she would have fawned more, or been stubborn and turned my suggestion down. But Lisa just accepted quickly and didn't even try to push thanks onto me. Even though I knew that I looked like a useless blockhead, she didn't even cut in much when I was dealing with Hagana. At home, in the fields, almost nothing could be done alone. Every day, someone got help from someone, and that was natural. There, I saw over and over how great adults behaved. There, I learned to keep things to a minimum, to not try to give ineffective help, and staying still was the hardest thing for those being helped. For those helping, I knew they felt more at ease that way. Well, I can agree with most of what he's saying. I'm not sure about the whole keep things to a minimum. Lisa was being a perfect example of that. However, I also knew that those who were receiving help also felt more at ease if something were requested of them by way of thanks. Yeah, especially if they felt thankful. That was why I hesitated. And after my hesitation subsided, I finally spoke. There we go. Are you going to do something for me are you... What? Yeah, are you going to do something for me, thanks? I tried to speak gruffly, but was so nervous I stuttered. That might have been partially why Lisa's eyes popped at me. You'd let me? And she asked that back. You seem like you'd hate it, so I've been holding back, but... Lisa spoke while giving a bit of a troubled laugh. Modesty. Self-control. Disgusting generosity. I gave Lisa a furtive glance and spoke. For example? That's right. Like a feast or something? Aren't you broke? Cooking is pure feelings. Yeah. What about you then? Is there something that I can do? And don't hold back. Let me know. Saying that, she straightened up. Unlike Hagana, her shapely bust clearly affected the shape of her clothes. In my head, there was that phrase that had been spinning around. Just one phrase. But I didn't have the courage to speak it. Lap pillow, I'm imagining. Then Lisa said that and put her hands to her mouth. Or maybe you want to take a bath together, or something. What? What are you, stupid? I knew that my face was bright red, but it wasn't like I didn't have ulterior motives, so I objected as strongly as I could. Lisa was simply laughing loudly when she rested her cheek on her hand, elbow on the table. She spoke somewhat happily. In 5 years, when you become a good man, I'll think about it, okay? You'll be an old lady then. Smiling while angry. That was one of Lisa's skills. I don't blame her. Like, it's not your lady. I guess even guys, like, calling them like, oh, in 5 years you're gonna be old. Like, no one wants to hear that. But even so, Lisa ultimately just burst out laughing. So, what do you really want? Just come out and say it. From across the table, I realized just how unbelievably childish I was. Oh. Yep, there it is, the lap pillow. I had no idea if I said it clearly. But Lisa became surprised. Then an unspeakably satisfied smile came onto her face. Like, that smile that she's showing right now, I can't help but laugh. The personality that shows up with that smile. Then, with her cheek still resting on her hand, she politely ate a dumpling. Look at the end of the long chopsticks. She moved it in a circle. Should I do it? I wonder. It was so obvious on purpose, I almost died of shame. But finally, Lisa gave a small nod. keep this quiet from Hagana, okay? When I said that, Lisa gently lowered her eyes. Of course. If boys didn't have secrets, they died, right? I think he said that a long time ago. Or something along those lines. In the end, she even cleaned my ears with an ear pick. Aw, we don't get to see it? If she said she'd do it one more time for 50,000 moles, I was scared I might pay. Oh, the temptation for a young man. The next day resulted in a huge advance. When making a ton of trades, even Hagana's program missed at times. But when that happened, I compensated with gut feel. Yeah, which is such a great part of the partnership. You base it on the program, but then you using your gut and sentiment stuff to see if it's working out alright, like when to sell it, and if it's time to cut losses, like if it failed. So it needs both the computer part and the human part to work. Hagana complained that it was indefinite and couldn't be relied on, but I had no choice because that was how market sentiment worked. In any case, it took me a lot less effort searching out stocks, so it let me concentrate on trading just that much more. On top of that, the idea of having a tone sound off when the price fell to a good spot was brilliant. Yeah, like I was saying, that was such a good one. If you ask me which was the best part of the program, that might have been it. Every stock would get 0.5% to 1% gains, occasionally 1.5% even, and it just piled on fiercely. 50 million moles quickly grew to over 25. Hagana's ability to watch the trading screen grew longer, and I started being able to have a bit more mental bandwidth during trading. We started talking while I traded about how she improved the program. Heck, Hagana's dedication was amazing. Other than when she ate and slept, it seemed like she was only thinking about this. Yeah, let's forget that she also worked as a teacher, right? Occasionally, Chris would come by with a question while she was delivering, and somehow she'd get to ask a question herself. Of course, Chris was stunned. Maybe she was a serious student, or just meek, but she wind up listening quietly to totally unrelated statistics, or some other formula with me. And also, if Hagana thought of something, apparently she'd have nothing else but that on her mind. I'd seen her jump out of the bath and run to her room a number of times. I can understand, like, something pops in her mind, you have to take care of that before you forget. Of course, she was totally naked. She didn't carry a towel. Okay, that much, I don't, like, that's an exaggeration. The first time, I had been messing with my laptop at the table, and Lisa had been studying on the sofa. We were so surprised, we just sat there, stunned, looking at Hagana. Just after Hagana flew into her room, Lisa finally came to herself and flew after her. I watched Lisa go and slowly return my eyes back to the computer like a robot that had run out of oil. Hagana's smooth body was burned into my retina. Streamlined skin that was seemingly soft and yet shone like porcelain. It seemed so much like the dolphins I saw at the aquarium. I was moved. You're comparing her skin to a dolphin. When Lisa brought Hagana back wrapped up in a sheet, I definitely couldn't look over. After shoving Hagana back to the bathroom and shutting the door with a great sigh, Lisa shook her mouth mournfully. After the second time, Lisa just calmly went to return Hagana to the bath like a household chore. By the fourth, apparently Hagana learned to take her terminal into the bath with her. Imagining that happening 4 times. Or maybe Lisa just gave in and allowed her to take it into the bath. Who knows? Apparently, she had thought that holding it with wet hands might get her electrocuted. In that way, the program was improved. I also learned how the program worked. I managed to find a knack for it, learning the places where I could trust it and the places where I couldn't. Many times I thought it felt like gears coming together. In the imagery space of the investing contest, it was like we were playing a game of chance where we knew most of the odds. In that situation, you could say it was only a matter of time before my greed came out. Oh, come on, Yoshihara, don't do that. Well, at the beginning, I hadn't thought I would be able to use Hagana this way. Even though it was just a fake market, for us to be profiting this consistently, there wasn't a reason not to. Essentially, applying it not just a fake market, but real trading. Okay, that what you meant? Huh? When I brought up the subject in the space between breakfast and trading, Hagana was so surprised she apparently hadn't even imagined it. The thing I made? Yeah, the program you made. Hagana just stared at me blankly, looked at the program that was in the middle of the calculating parameters, and then looked once more at me. But this was made for the contest. It can't be totally useless. Hagana looked at me repeatedly. She looked at me like I was talking bird song, and she had no idea what I was saying all this time. But the real market. We can't try it? You've been using the past data from the contest for testing, right? That's true. Then do that with the real data. If it works out, then we do it. Is that alright? To me, it was an awfully obvious conclusion. Or maybe there were technical reasons why we couldn't. I don't know. It's something like that impossible? No, it's not impossible. Then, please try. But Hagana's reaction was muted. Looking away, she seemed to be hesitating. What's wrong? So when I asked her, she looked up at me in surprise. Then, she looked away again. Oh, are you thinking about the sharing of profits? Hagana seemed to sometimes be greedy, and sometimes not. But she was probably concerned about that when it came to Rio trading. I asked her, thinking it was that, but surprisingly, Hagana's brow furrowed out of simple uneasiness. It's not that. Then what is it? Things are going this well, so it doesn't mean anything if we don't try it for real. Gazing at Hagana as she looked downward, it just started to feel like I was picking on her. But I just had no idea why she was hesitating. I didn't have anything else to say, and I also couldn't just say, then let me borrow the program. Just when I was wondering what was going on, Hagana spoke, still looking down. The real market. Yeah? She looked up slowly. It involves money, right? A worried face. Oh, of course. That's the whole point of it. That I don't think it would go well. Saying that, Hagana lowered her raised face again. Her eyes turned back to the terminal, and her thin fingers slowly touched the screen, changing prices in the program. I looked at her and wondered if I had turned stupid. I just did not comprehend what she said. She feels more comfortable because the virtual one is like points, but real money has real impact in their lives, so she kind of scared of if it fails, is a big effect on them. What? I don't think it would go well. Hagana spoke clearly, but didn't look up from the terminal. I asked once more. Why do you think that? How can't you just try it with the data? The program's built for that, right? Hagana's hands were still inputting into the terminal as I spoke, but when I stopped, her hands did too. Then she made to look at me, but stopped part way, and then her hands started messing with the terminal again. I finally lost it and grabbed her thin fingers with my fist and turned them towards me. Answer me. The thing you made. I really think it's amazing. It's giving results. Not using a real trading is idiotic. Hagana silently tried to free her hands from mine, but there was no way she could draw off my grip. I let go of her hands, but not because she started clawing or tried to bite. Suddenly, she looked like she was about to cry. Don't cry. I'm not crying. Saying just that, she pressed her lips tightly together. Apparently trying to hide that she was about to cry, she spoke curtly. I don't think it would work in the real world. It was the same thing. There wasn't any reason. She just kept repeating the same line over and over. There was something like a firm belief. The old me simply would have gotten angry and shouted, and we just have to have a fight and go nowhere. However, now I knew a fair amount about Hagana. She loved math, and even though the program she made was giving such amazing results in the fake market, she still firmly believed, with no supporting evidence, mind you, that it wouldn't work in the real world. It was an almost pitiful kind of self-defense mechanism. Things had never gone well, so they never go well in the future. She just didn't want to get hurt anymore holding up hope. Yes, that lack of confidence of the past failures. That reminds me of something. I think it was like an anime I was watching recently. Oh, I remember now. It was actually when I was reading Love's War and they were talking about Ishigami. I won't go into more details, but yeah. That was essentially what she was saying. I remember what Toyama said. A chick that hadn't even hatched from the shell. I gave Hagana's shell a small jab. It's not a problem if it can fail. Hagana looked at me with unreadable eyes. Her eyes were like pools of thick, black ink. There were demons in the market, as well as tons of pitfalls. Even if you had the perfect theory, it was probably impossible to win every single time. However, if you knew the reasoning behind winning, then if you stood through the end, you should win. And that's the beautiful part about this whole computer and human relationship and this whole trading that they're doing. Didn't I say, we keep going until it works? Plus, even if we lose, I'm not going to tell you to take responsibility. But if it works, I'd give you 20% of what we make. How about it? There's no downside in it for you, right? It's like that thing. The bonus lottery ticket. Expected value. Hagana said that immediately, then paused. Then she looked up at me. But, she said but again. The shell still held firmly shut. However, from between the cracks, she could hear. I'm scared. It was probably because I was someone who came from a lucky walk of life. I hadn't been bought with money from a wretched country on the harsh earth. Nor had I experienced a life where I had to cry in the corner, protecting my head. That's why I wouldn't say that I knew how Hagana felt, but I knew what the words I wanted to say were. I looked into Hagana's eyes, looked so directly I could see myself in them, and spoke. I'm afraid of myself. I'm putting my entire fortune on the line after all. You think about what happens if you lost all your money. When my net worth dropped 1%, that was when my body had a 1% of it cut off. I remember when he talked about this stuff before. If you consider Lisa's body to be made of books, then mine was made of money. Hagana looked at my eyes and swallowed like she had a small hiccup. Then she lowered her eyelashes weakly, her eyes swimming. I was about to shout. However, Hagana's swimming eyes went to my computer screen, and she spoke in a small voice. Trading. Yeah? It started. Alerted by those words, I looked at the screen. Hagana program would decide what stocks were going to hit today, so there wasn't a reason to rush. In fact, I knew that waiting for the market to start moving a bit and letting it recalculate actually improved the results. That's why my eyes were taken by the screen for an instant, but I quickly turned back to Hagana. However, Hagana may have just wanted some breathing room, even if it were just for an instant. Okay. What? She said that before I could even turn my eyes back, and I was a bit confused. But Hagana didn't speak again and turned her face back to her own terminal. In front of me was the usual profile of someone who didn't really listen to people. I don't know why, but somehow it looked different from usual. By the time I realized that her cheeks were a bit red, it was already at the end of the day and I was in bed. Okay, there we go. We'll stop here for today. So yeah, we had them testing out the program, seeing all the kinks, working out the computer part, the human part, and because Hagana trusted so much in the program, they actually had a successful first test. He was actually gonna cut at losses, but because she stopped him, they actually had a bigger profit. And from now on, it was just success after success. Afterwards, Yoshihara even had his little small victory with the reward from Lisa. A shame that we couldn't see an image of that. Speaking of image, we also saw an expression from Hagana I did not expect. And afterwards, they're considering taking this program for the real market and actually increases their budget, which would help both of them. Even after this virtual stock market contest. But yeah, I think that's all for today. We got some progress. The program is actually functioning. I thought it would take a bit longer. But now that they're going up, we'll see just how up they will go. Maybe on the next episode. With that being said, see you next time. Bye.